One of the two newest varsity sports in the Minnesota State High School League takes center stage on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon and into the early evening here in White Bear Lake, as a traditional Suburban East Conference matchup is ready to take center stage. It's the Roseville Area High School Raiders and the White Bear Lake Bears here on your home for White Bear Lake Athletics, Suburban Community Channels TV 19. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Tuesday evening to you, wherever you may be across the great state of Minnesota. I'm Alex Westhead here from Jim Galvin Court here at White Bear Lake Area High School. Boys volleyball, in its second year of existence in the Minnesota State High School League as a sanctioned sport by the Minnesota State High School League, has been quite the contest and quite the sport that is on the rise. I remember when I was a teacher here in White Bear Lake that I had students that would come up to me asking, Alex, would you support, or I guess more professionally, Mr. Westhead, would you support a boys volleyball program here at White Bear Lake Area High School? The answer, of course, is a resounding yes. And almost 10 years after that point in time, that dream is a reality, as White Bear Lake boys high school volleyball is finally competing here in the springtime. The race to get here may be irrelevant, but the fact that we are here is important. The other sport that's been added to the spring, girls flag football, but more on that in the coming time. For these two teams, they haven't played the same amount of games, but part of the excitement is that as these teams continue to rise, as more programs continue to sprout up all across the state of Minnesota, the opportunity will exist quite a bit for the opportunity to continue to expand and reform old rivalries in other sports here in this one. So White Bear Lake on the season has just one game on their recorded schedule. It was right here at Jim Galvin Court, a 3-1 in-sets loss to St. Paul Harding in their only game previously 2 weeks ago on March the 31st. Now, that's just part of the schedule. That's just part of how things go in terms of developing a system, developing a program, and being able to find a way to ensure what just happens in finding those other competitions. You have to play somebody at some point, and certainly for White Bear Lake, one game against St. Paul Harding. The world is the proverbial oyster for the White Bear Lake Bears. A lot of contests left to go, and beginning tonight against the Roseville Raiders. Taking a look quickly at the Suburban East Conference standings in 2026, you see most of the teams, in fact all of the teams in the Suburban East Conference sponsoring boys volleyball. Roseville and White Bear Lake, as with every other team, yet to play a Suburban East Conference game so far this season, but the results in non-conference play vastly different. Roseville 8-1 on the year, and White Bear Lake just with that one game at 0-1, joining Stillwater in the only teams in the Suburban East Conference that have played just one game entering this one tonight. It is a broadcaster's nightmare here at Jim Galvin Court. Both teams wearing white. White Bear Lake will start on the left side of the court. The libero for White Bear Lake is in orange. Meanwhile, for Roseville, they are in white as well. The libero for the Roseville Raiders is in black. Back to serve for White Bear Lake will be Eli Vang, the center, the junior. And we're underway here from Jim Galvin Court. On the near pin, a slap down, that went long. And the kill attempt off the hand of Caleb Towle goes long, and a point for White Bear Lake to begin the proceedings this evening. Again, if you're new to boys volleyball in the state of Minnesota, the scoring and the rules are the same as girls volleyball. What most broadcasters, what most folks are used to is a block at the line goes in favor of Roseville. A nice block at the line by Henry Cuthbert, the 6'4" middle blocker. Will be graduating next year. That makes him a junior. One serving one. This will be service for Roseville. The ball went from the table area towards the White Bear Lake side. Now it needs to find its way all the way back to the opposite side for Roseville to begin. Davion Vang, a 5'6" setter who's a senior this season for Roseville, will in service go one serving one. Right at the middle of the net, tipped at the line, jousted right towards Eli Cam, tried to shove it ahead, but right into the net, an attack error for White Bear Lake, and the rally continues for Roseville. Henry Cuthbert, 6'4". Service continues, two serving one. That service long. And it ties the first set up at 2 points apiece. Service rotation continues for White Bear Lake. Alan Cassidy back to serve, two serving two. Dug by Roseville. Towle back over in town for a kill. Roseville with another point on the board. brings a substitution for the Raiders. Shyler Engel enters into the game for the first time, replacing Brian Yang. Caleb Tao back to serve, the 5'5" sophomore. As 3 will serve 2. On the dive, nice athleticism shown on the attempt at it. Not quite able to get to it, the defensive specialist, the libero, J.R. Lumbo. The sophomore unable to put it back on the opposite side. Another point for Roseville. Four serving 2. Dow across, dug by Lumbo. Onto the near side pin, shoved over on the third hit by Alvin Jean. On the near side pin, another nice play. Back high off the roof, and a point given to Roseville on a double hit by White Bear Lake. The 4-point rally continues for the Roseville Raiders. It's 5-2. 5 serving 2, and an ace off the tip of the net. And a point picked up by Caleb Tao. Rally is rallying for Roseville so far in the early going. Jackson Vang is the defensive specialist for Roseville. 6 serving 2. Dug by White Bear Lake off to the far side, blocked at the line and saved by Roseville. Near side pin on the third hit. Engel hits it over and down for a Raider point. And the rally for Roseville continues, 7 serving 2. Saw on your screen briefly the last meeting between these two. It's the second year of volleyball being a varsity sport at the boys level. On the near side pin, the set for Alvin Jean, down into the seam, and a point for White Bear Lake. Back to serve, libero for White Bear Lake, J.R. Lumbo, a sophomore for head coach Megan Danley and the White Bear Lake Bears. 3 to serve 7. On the dig, Vang to the far pin, tipped over, Sheck. Kept alive by White Bear Lake on the near side. Zhang sends it over. High into the air here at Calvin Court. Far pin, looks to tip it over. On the side, near side pin and down for the kill. Alvin Zhang picks up the kill. And the service rally will continue for J.R. Lumbo. I've been waiting for the first power strike of the night on the near pin, and it's Alvin Zhang who picks up the kill. Off to the far side, blocked the net off the Sheck kill attempt. Back to the far pin, sent over, right back on and over as the pin was hit on the opposite side. As a result, point for the Roseville Raiders. Libero out, and Jackson Vang for Roseville. That brings Nimpala, the 6'2 junior middle blocker, back in for Roseville. And a ball that I thought was kicked. Was kicked by Cassidy, out, and a point for White Bear Lake. Substitutions now will be allowed on both sides. It looked like Cassidy played it with the foot. And the Roseville fans in attendance are letting the call of it now. We have the only replay. Sure enough. Good hand-eye off the senior outside hitter for Alan Cassidy. And the service error gives possession right back to Roseville. But how about that? Good footwork by Cassidy. But no harm, no foul so far. Substitutions for Roseville. Torrin Frosley enters into the contest for the first time, as does Sam Mua. It'll be Mua goes back to serve for Roseville. 9 serving 5 first set. Mua across, dug by Lumbo. Onto the near side pin, looking for the kill and dug out right of the net. Good play by Nimpala. High into the air, looks to set to the near pin, back over. Marino tried for the kill, couldn't get it. Frosley at the net, saves it. Vang, third hit, back over Nimpala. Tapped high in the air, looking for the kill, but the joust is won by Roseville, and Nimpala picks up the point for the Raiders. Well-timed jump. Block party is on for Nimpala, had Frosley in with him. but the point goes for White Bear Lake. 6 serving 9. And a service that went long. Service error for White Bear Lake gives possession back to Roseville. Brian Yang back into the game. Shire Engel will go to the Roseville Raider bench. That puts Brian Yang back to serve. Yang, a defensive specialist listed on the Roseville roster, 5'5" senior. Goes out of play. Service error for Roseville. Point for White Bear Lake. Hoos Dingemans will go back to serve. 7 serving 10. Big by Tao. Mua, third hit, pushed over by Frosley. On the third hit for White Bear Lake, Eli Cam. Mua sets right in the middle and off the hand. The kill picked up by Kimitai Nempala. Point for Roseville. The Raiders in front by 4, 11-7. Jackson Vang back to serve. This opening set of play from White Bear Lake tonight. Vang across. Goes off the hands of Cassidy. And out of play, an ace picked up by Jackson Vang. 5-point lead for the Raiders, 12-5. Third ace of the opening set for Roseville. Vang in service with the right hand and across. Dug by Cassidy. Back to the far side, tipped over the net, looking to try to get to the ball, but no doing there. Tao tipped it over on the third hit for Roseville, looking to set at the near pin, the joust at the line. Won by Tao and Cuthbert, and a point for Roseville. Cuthbert at 6'4", Tao at 5'5". And the team block for Roseville. 6-point lead. Bang back across. Mua looks to set, near pin for Vang, then back across, blocked at the line. Point for White Bear Lake. It was Cam who came in to assist on the block in the joust. Substitutions now for White Bear Lake bring Alvin Zhang back into the match, and Eli Vang will go back to serve for White Bear Lake. Vang, a junior setter, will send it across, and a service error gives point back to Roseville. Substitution for the Raiders. Davion Yang is into the contest. Owen Scheck returns. Leaving the match, Torrin Frosley and Sam Mua. So you can really see how those rotations start to factor the matchup between these two teams here tonight. Davion Yang to serve. Led by Lanik, but it's over the pin on the wrong side of it. Point for Roseville. And the Raiders starting to pull away here, leading by 7. Davion Yang to serve. And dug right in the face of one White Bear Lake player, but they send it across on the third hit. Yang the dig. Set by Vang. Tipped over by Scheck. White Bear Lake looks to respond before Scheck sends it down for the kill. Owen Scheck, good opposite side hitter, 6'2" junior. Picks up the point, and it results in a timeout. So timeout taken with Roseville in front, 16-8. Well, teams have been able to go back and forth for a little bit. White Bear Lake hasn't led in this opening set, but they've been able to cut the Roseville lead at points outside of the first 5 points or so to 1 or 2. But Roseville starting to take advantage perhaps of some opportunities that they've had, especially on that far side pin. It's worked out well for them. Good defensive effort by White Bear Lake on a number of possessions, but in the case in that last point of Owen Scheck, making sure that he was in the right spot to knock the ball down into the hole on the backside and pick up another point for the Roseville Raiders. So Megan Danley, head coach of White Bear Lake, her second season. She's got a record of 3-13 for the Roseville Raiders. Eli Cam, the sophomore middle hitter. And the rally for Roseville begins after the timeout by Davion Yang, a 5'6" senior. Back to serve. Lumbo the dig. Off to the far pin, looking for it, off of Jackson Vang. And the kill picked up by Alvin Zhang. And it gives service back to White Bear Lake. Cassidy will go back to serve. As 9 will serve 16. We have a little bit of a pause. There appears to be some sort of a substitution or rotation issue, perhaps with Roseville. Either way, everything's all set as Shyler Engel back into the game for Roseville. 9 serving 16. On a dig that was set by Tao. Vang, and then back over, looking for the seam on the far corner, and found it off of a deflection of a White Bear Lake Bear. Point for the Raiders. You can aim for that back corner, and sometimes you miss it. That's fine. As long as you're getting a deflection, the point still goes in your favor. Town to serve, 17 serving 9. And dug straight down. As Wyatt Lanek trying to make a play on the ball, junior outside hitter, but sent it right down, right where the pitcher's mound and kickball here at White Bear Lake Area High School would be. 18 serving 9. Cassidy a dig to the far pin. Looking for Melnick, and the block of the line goes in favor of White Bear Lake. Lanek picks up the kill, giving service back to White Bear Lake. J.R. Lumbo. Libero to serve. 10 serving 18. Third hit, looks to set, and off of Cassidy. Kill picked up by Scheck. And Roseville 6 points away from victory here in the opening set. Henry Cuthbert back to serve. As 19 serving 10. And a service error by Cuthbert gives possession back to White Bear Lake. 8-point lead, 19-11. Substitutions. Nathan Lee back into the game. Dom Marino back into the game for White Bear Lake, replacing Alvin Zhang and Eli Vang. Nathan Lee back to serve, 11 serving 19. Engel the dig. Back to the near pin, looking for Engel. Just the line, won by Roseville. As Engel puts it right down in front of the feet of Marino. Point for the Raiders. Jordan Frosley back in, replacing Yang. Likewise, Sam Moole will enter into the place of Owen Scheck. Moore, the 6-foot-tall senior, back to serve. 20 serving 11. And off the inside forearm of Lanek for an ace picked up by Roseville. And Bua continues his hot streak at the service line. Pretty good service the first time through. Trying to do it again. 21 serving 11. Lumbo to the near pin. Looking for the kill. Melnick sent it into the seam for a point off of a hand and a deflection of a Roseville Raider. Lanek to serve, 12 serving 21. Vang the dig and found a seam after the hit by Vang. Point for White Bear Lake. Lanek to continue the rally, 13 serving 21. Mua, far pin, looked to tip it over, did Engel. But a point for White Bear Lake. Cassidy with the tip over the top of the net. Point for the White Bear Lake Bears. Lanek to serve, 14 serving 21, first set. Vang, Mua, high in the air, tipped over, blocked to the line. Well done by Dom Marino. Mua shoves it over. On a dig, picked up by Nathan Lee. Near side pin, Marino. And back over for Vang. Mua. Far pin, Engel pushes it long. A point for White Bear Lake. Bears starting to trim into this Roseville lead just a little bit. 6-point lead in it now. Wyatt Mlanek back to serve. 15 serving 21. Big handled by Engel. Near pin, Frosley. Dug back by Mlanek. The far pin, Cassidy found the seam and got it to go. Point for White Bear Lake, drawing a Raider timeout. Raiders had led by 9. White Bear Lake able to cut it to 5, drawing the Roseville timeout. Cassidy found success with the foot earlier. That went in his favor. And in this instance, he found it with a nice drive on the far pin. The elevation definitely there for White Bear Lake, and now the points are starting to go towards the orange and black. So Megan Danley, in her second season record of 3-13, continues to build up this program here for White Bear Lake, as the coaches will each have conversations with their respective schools out of the timeout. On the right side, there is a acting head coach tonight for the Roseville Raiders, and we'll talk about her next chance that we get. Nice crowd here tonight. There is Madison Critchley, who in the world of small worlds was my sophomore year RA at the University of Minnesota at Middlebrook Hall. That one goes long off the top of the roof, and an ace picked up by White Bear Lake. And the lead trimmed to 4. Critchley is also the current head girls volleyball coach, at least per the Minnesota State High School League website, at Como Park High School in Section 4-3A. So bringing that expertise that she has with St. Paul Como Park here to Roseville. Formerly a teacher in the Roseville district as well, now teaching in the Mounds U school system. Fourth hit had been charged. So a point back to Roseville, 3 points away from victory here in set number 1. Engel is out, and back to serve will be Brian Yang for Roseville. 22 serving 17. Lumbo a dig. Lanek back to the far pin, 10, kicked and tipped over by Cassidy. It goes long, and the lead back to 4. Long substitutions back by White Bear Lake. Eli Cam into the game in the replacement spot for the libero, J.R. Lumbo. Back to serve, Hoos Dingemans. With a very popular following here in White Bear Lake, and doesn't reward the fans that time with a service error, resulting in his substitution. Jackson Vang back to serve, 23 serving 18. Vang will serve by Mlanik. Airborne, sent over. Marino. Mua a dig, looks to set it near pin and set down for the kill by Caleb Dow. And Roseville on set point here in set number 1. Now Mua at 6 foot tall, that setting form for the Raiders just perfect. Nice, even level set. That one long, so it gives White Bear Lake an extra chance here in set point 2. Substitutions for White Bear Lake. Alvin Zhang back in. Eli Vang re-enters for White Bear Lake. Departing will be Don Marino and Nathan Lee. Eli Vang to serve. Set point 2. Yang a dig. Mua with the set and hit the pin on the drive-by. Torrin Frosley commits the attack error, pulling White Bear Lake within 4. Vang across in service. Yang. Tao. That went long. 3-point lead and a third set point. (21 serving 24). Yang. Mua. Third hit pushed over and saved by Roseville. Near side. Zhang sent it long. And the point goes to Roseville, meaning that set 1 is complete. So set 1 complete, 25-21. White Bear Lake falls to Roseville here in the opening set of play tonight from White Bear Lake Area High School. Stick around, set number 2 coming up next. Roseville in front, 1-0. Here on your home for White Bear Lake Athletics, Suburban Community Channels TV 19.
Hi, I'm Priscilla Presley. My love for animals began when I was 5 years old and found a puppy wandering alone. Growing up in a military family, pets weren't allowed, but I couldn't turn him away, and my family let me adopt him. That moment sparked a lifelong commitment to speak up for animals who can't speak for themselves. 50 plus years ago, Elvis and I supported American Humane Society because animals deserve our voice. And now, more than ever, they still do. American Humane Society saves lives and strengthens the bond between humans and animals. Each year, millions of animals end up in shelters, waiting for someone to give them a second chance. Your compassion can change a life. Please visit AmericanHumane.org to learn more. Thank you.
I see a fearful, anxious 12-year-old girl who turned into a beautiful, optimistic, hardworking, talented, creative young woman who's not afraid to advocate for herself. Yeah, I'm just super proud of you. I don't have no doubt in my mind about the next version of yourself that you're gonna be.
I see a beautiful soul, a hardworking mom, and someone that loves her kids and will do anything for her kids. And I just love you so much.
(25-21) in set number one here at White Bear Lake Area High School. Second set starting imminently as White Bear Lake looks to claw back against the Roseville area Raiders. Well, as a White Bear Lake alum, being back here at what was, in my day and age, way too long ago, being back here at White Bear Lake Area High School for the first time since the renovations had been completed. What a beautiful facility this has become here for White Bear Lake. Now currently standing at Galvin Court, what was, in my day and age, the 300s and 400s circle. To see the natural light coming in from the outside, all the state championship banners, and the amount of time, effort, and money that's been spent into making this place not just a top quality facility in terms of the Minnesota State High School League, but arguably in educational campuses around the state. It's been quite nice to spend some time walking around the old circles, or what's left of them, and seeing all the new resources that White Bear Lake Area High School has. As the ball off of the face of Jackson Vang results in the first point for White Bear Lake. He hops up with a smile, and White Bear Lake with their first lead in the set tonight. It's 1-0. I remember the circles. 100s, 200s, 300s, 400s, and 500s. Not much is left of the core of the circles, as it's an ace picked up by Cassidy. And 2-0 White Bear Lake here in second set. As much of what was the 100s and 200s has been built up and out over the last handful of years. And of course, all the changes here at the 300 and 400 circle. On the far side, Davion Yang looks to set it back for the kill. Picked up beautifully. Owen Scheck picks up the first kill of the second set for Roseville. And it's 2-1. But even too, just the structural decision to just let the natural light in here for a place that so dark and so isolated from the rest of the school, the rest of the campus. Oh, makes this White Bear Lake Bear graduate's heart just a little bit happier today. On the near side, Zhang looks for the kill, kept alive on the dig by Vang off to the far side, and sent over on the third hit by Roseville. Looking to set right at the pin, tipped over well by Dingemans, and then Dingemans picks up the kill. Ooh, Dingemans with a big kill for White Bear Lake. J.R. Lumbo back to serve. There will be a substitution as it's libero related, so Dingemans will take a seat and Mlanick will re-enter. Free served one. Hang back at the line and down. Picked up another kill on the joust block party for White Bear Lake. Eli Cam right at the net. Nice little block party there for the Bears. They lead by 3. Ball had gone all the way into the corner, since been retrieved. And Cassidy will hand off for Eli Cam. We're back and ready to go. J.R. Lumbo to serve. Right back at the far pin, blocked at the line. Point for Roseville. Good awareness by Sheck, sent it right off the hand of the blocker. On the far pin, picks up the point, 2-point lead. Henry Cuthbert back to serve. Mlanick a dig. Set up right at the middle and just barely long. Point for Roseville. So Cuthbert continues the rally. Perfectly set up, perfectly executed, but just a little long on the attack. Setting near pin, looking for it. Block party is on. Blocked by Cam at the net for White Bear Lake. Dig by Vang. Off the top of the roof here at White Bear Lake, and a good dig of the opposite side by Nempala for Roseville. Lumbo. Nempala for Roseville. Near side pin. Angle blocked at the line and towards the bleachers. Point for White Bear Lake on another Bear block party. Substitutions, Nathan Lee in. Don Marino in. That means Alvin Zhang departs, as does Eli Vang. Nathan Lee back to serve. 2-point lead for the Bears. 5 serving 3. Vang, Yang, and down. Attack error Roseville. Point White Bear Lake. And it's the first time we've seen White Bear Lake with service tonight. But the throw has been on their side to start, and just like Roseville did in the opening set, White Bear Lake doing the same. Set over. Far pin. Block party is on. Kept alive on the dig on the back line by Tao. And a point for Roseville as a result. Subs for each team will just be Roseville, who looks like they put in the power rotation for them. Frosley and Mua back in. Mua will go back to serve. The power rotation puts Davion Yang rather, and Owen Sheck onto the bench for Roseville. Mua across. Lumbo a dig. Set up by Lee, looking for the kill. Mlanick, and picks it up off the roof. And a back and forth second set that White Bear Lake just lost handle of in the opening set of play. We'll see how they're able to handle this second set. Josh Vaugh will go back to serve. Defensive specialist, a junior for White Bear Lake. Vaugh, attack error, service error rather. Got a ton of power on it, but just topped it off just enough. Send it right below the net. Brian Yang back in, Schaller Engel out. For the Roseville Raiders, that puts Brian Yang back to the service line for Roseville. 5 serving 7, second set of play. 25-21 in favor, and now it is 6-7. Roseville will serve. 25-21 was our first set. Roseville led by as many as 9 in that opening set. Yang to serve. And that one just barely long. As it looked like Yang had found some space on that back line, but just a tad long. And the 2-point lead restored for White Bear Lake. J.R. Lumbo to serve. Waiting. And now is ready to fire. Vang, back across, that goes long, attack error. Point for White Bear Lake. And despite how one might say it looks easy to fire a ball one way or the other is not an easy task by any means. The power is one thing, but the accuracy is the other. Cassidy, a good dig. Mua looks to set right at the net, kept alive by Kampala, and back up into the air, but on a fourth hit. And Maddie Critchley is looking for a lift from our officials here. She won't get the call to work in her favor. Largest lead of any set for White Bear Lake. It's a 4-point lead. 10 will serve 6. Lumbo to serve. And a good athletic play by Vang to keep it alive. Third hit, Caleb Tao sends it over. Looks to set, far pin Cassidy, sent it right back down into his face, an attack error. And a point for Roseville as a result. Substitution for Roseville. Henry Cuthbert will re-enter, player departing. Schematan Impala. It's interesting to note, and this is my first boys varsity volleyball contest. It's interesting to note the difference in the substitutions, where at the girls' game at all levels, the substitutions are a little more routine, a little more formalized. Here in the boys' game is not so much the case. Attack error against Roseville on the far pin. It hit that pin far side. And the 4-point lead back in favor of White Bear Lake. Draw substitutions as the rotations will continue. Alvin Zhang is back in, and Eli Vang is as well. Those substitutions draw Nathan Lee and Dom Marino out of the lineup for the time being. Eli Vang to serve 11, serving 7, second set, 1-0. Roseville in sets. Mua looks to set, near pin for Caleb Tao, block party at the line. Alvin Zhang picks up another. And a timeout is drawn on the court. Roseville will take timeout. They trail in this second set by 5, 12-7. Bears in front of set number 2. Well executed block party. And blocks at the net, whether it be the near pin, the far pin, or smack dab in the center. When they're executed well and they fire on all cylinders as they can, it is a beauty to watch. It's a combination of timing, height, athleticism to be able to reach up and go for the block, and then to be able to execute it well. 2025 Suburban East Conference saw each of these teams in the middle of the conference pack. Roseville finished 5-4 in Suburban East play. White Bear Lake down in 8th with 2-8 their record. Half a game up on Creighton-Durham Hall and Stillwater. Again, Roseville, a pretty good season last year, picking up in terms of the third most wins overall on that 12, but just a tad underneath compared to everyone else in the conference play. Out of the timeout, 12 serving 7. White Bear Lake trailing 1-0. Vang across. Was dug by Yang on the near side. Pin blocked at the line. The block party continues. Who's Dingemans joins it this time with a block and a point for White Bear Lake. A 6-point lead now for the Bears. 13 serving 7. Mua looks to set to the near pin. Tao sent it over and down. A kill picked up by Caleb Tao. And a point for the Roseville Raiders. Rotation for Roseville brings out the power, puts in the speed. As Sheck and Yang re-enter for Roseville. Davion Yang to serve, 8 serving 13. Lumbo a dig. Looks to set to the far pin, tipped over and blocked to the line. Well executed. Owen Sheck got up on the far pin. Henry Cuthbert joined him in the block attempt. And Roseville within 4. Davion Yang on a dig. Back across. Va looking for it long, but deflected on a push off the pin, which results in the rally continuing in the hands of the Roseville Raiders. 10 serving 13. Cassidy a dig. Set by Vang right into the middle. Cassidy puts it over on the third. Vang. Vang. Back over. Sheck tried to send it over for Roseville on the third hit. Cassidy shoves it down for an unexpected kill. Not a bad little finish there by Alan Cassidy. Certainly with where that was in the flow and the rhythm of the game, you were expecting maybe a set or something to get it to the setters in the middle would have resulted there, but instead it was shoved over with accuracy by Cassidy. Well finished off. Mlanek back into the game for White Bear Lake. As a ace picked up just off the tip of the net by Alan Cassidy. And the lead back to 5, 15 serving 10. Cassidy to serve. And that found the seam on the back corner. Cassidy picks up another point at 16-10. Cassidy to serve, 16 serving 10. Yang, Vang, and on the third hit, down for the kill by Owen Scheck. Point for the Raiders. Scheck picks it up. Substitution brings Engel back into the mix. And Brian Yang departs for Roseville. Caleb Tao back to serve, the 5-5 outside hitter as a sophomore for Roseville. 5-point set. Set by Vang, back over an attack error by Dingemans. Recognized it immediately, just sent it right into the net. Point for Roseville picked up as a result. White Bear Lake has led this set from pillar to post. Raiders have trimmed to as few as 2 since escaping the past 5, and they'll pick up another on the attack error by Mlanek. And a point for the Roseville Raiders. (13 serving 16). Tao, Mlanek a dig. Set by Vang, far pin. Mlanek looked to tip it over, but a block party at the line for Roseville. To the near pin, Alvin Jean. Dug out by Scheck. Set by Yang, and on the third hit over, Engel picks up the kill for Roseville. Good composure by the Raiders, getting set back up into their system, not getting out of sorts. And they pick up the point as a result. (14 serving 16). Mlanek a dig. Set by Vang, far pin. Mlanek sent it long. Point for the Raiders. And I wonder if we won't see a timeout by White Bear Lake. We will, as Megan Danley takes a timeout. And the lead has been trimmed to 1, 16-15 Bears here in set number 2. Well, half of coaching is just recognizing when to take timeouts and recognizing the flow of the game when the right time, the ample time to take the timeout is, whether to reset momentum or get things back going on the right side, one way or another. Sets have been great, blocks have been great, kills have been great just the same. Both teams have picked them up in spades tonight. At last, off the arm of Owen Scheck, the opposite hitter, 6'2", who's done a really nice job of the net on both sides of the pins tonight. As out of the timeout, service will stay on the side of the Roseville Raiders. And Caleb Dow will go back to serve. Elsewhere in Suburban East Conference play tonight, a couple of contests going on. We'll keep track of those as we go in terms of our Suburban Community Channels programming. Tartan and St. Paul Johnson started at 6 p.m. at Tartan High School. Sent over by Cuthbert. Whistle blows. Point Raiders, and they're level. A double hit call against White Bear Lake at the net. And it levels things up at 16 points apiece. Caleb Tao, an attack error, service error. Gives White Bear Lake the possession back, and the 1-point lead returns to White Bear. Hoos Dingemans back to serve, as 17 will serve 16. Dingemans a couple of hops, and here's service. That one went long, service error. And we're tied again. Libero J.R. Lumbo back into the game for the White Bear Lake Bears. Also a libero substitution. Jackson Vang is out. That brings Kimatai and Impala back into the match for Roseville. 17-all. Cuthbert to serve. Dug by Cassidy to the near side, off the back of the official. And out of play, Roseville for the first time in this set. They lead by 1. Good credit given to the official. Did his best to get out of the way. Despite Cassidy making all the effort that he could. No such luck to be able to get to the volleyball. Cuthbert to serve, 18 serving 17. Second set, Roseville 1-0. They won the first set 25-21. On the far side pin, back over. Mlanick trying to kill it, kept alive. Off the side of the roof, and fortunately for White Bear Lake, took a tough bounce. Here at Galvin Court, there's a post that goes right in, but also the drop-down netting that would separate the gym from 1 half to 2. And it results in a favorable bounce for White Bear Lake. A little home cooking on their home court. Nathan Lee in service, all level at 18. On the near side pin, sent long, but over the back line, I thought we might have had a deflection there, but Shire Engel sent it long. Point back to White Bear Lake in a 1-point lead. Nathan Lee to serve, 19 serving 18. Engel, Fang, far pin, Sheck looking for the kill and into the net. An attack error for Roseville. Bears take a 2-point lead, 20-18. Lee to serve and continue the rally for White Bear Lake, and we'll have the rally end there as a service error for Lee gives possession back to Roseville. Power back in for the Raiders, Torrin Frosley and Sam Mua, which in the rotation should signify Sam Mua's turn to serve. Mua's had success serving. See if it gives Roseville the lead back. What a dig by Mlanick, and it ties the game up on that chance. Not a bad attempt at it by Mlanick, but sometimes in the game of volleyball, that's just what happens, where it just rolls off to the one side. There's not a whole lot of much of anything you can do, if anything. And it ties the match up and the setup at 20 points apiece. Sam Mua to serve, 20 serving 20. Lumbo a dig, set by Lee to the near pin. Mlanick picks up the kill. Nicely executed on the near pin by Wyatt. And a draw substitution, Josh back in. He'll go back to serve in the place of Wyatt Mlanick. 21 serving 20. And long. Back and forth this set goes. Roseville able to take momentum in that first set, where it wasn't as back and forth as this one is, but we've been tied now in the last handful of points, 5, maybe 6 times. Yang to serve, 21 all. Long. Point for White Bear Lake. Hoos Dingeman's back in and replacing Eli Cam in a bit of a libero play. It's J.R. Lumbo who will go back to serve, 22 serving 21. Nampala back across. Nampala looks for it and found the seam backside. Nampala with a beauty. And we're tied 22 all. You find space in the middle and you find it on the back line as a result of it. Service error by Jackson Vang. White Bear Lake 2 points away from victory in the second set. But when you're able to find that center and give yourself an opportunity to just put the ball in play, even more so on that back line and that back third, if it pays off well for you, you pick up a point. Eli Vang back to serve, 23 serving 22. Yang a dig. Mua looks to set off the hands. A block by Dingemans. But a kill picked up by Caleb Tao on a beautiful drive at the near pin. Power out, speed in. That brings Davion Yang back and Owen Sheck back. 23-23. Remember, you must win by 2. Davion Yang to serve. Lumbo. Cassidy off the roof, and just as the home bounce worked in favor of White Bear Lake earlier in the set, it creates set point for Roseville. 24 will serve 23. And it draws a timeout by White Bear Lake. So a timeout taken by White Bear Lake. in what still is anybody's set if the points can go one way versus another. Section placement in 2026 is something to talk about, of course, in terms of where new schools continue to pop up and bring things in terms of the Minnesota State High School League and how boys volleyball continues to evolve. There's a lot yet to be determined and a lot of opportunity for teams to move one way or another. But just like Roseville, no resilience there, and Cassidy in the perfect position, the right play with it, but the pillars here, the cross beams at Galvin Court here in White Bear Lake, unfavorable to White Bear Lake in that possession. And it will give Roseville a chance to take the second set victory. Out of the timeout, 24 will serve 23. Davion Yang back to serve. The Bears need a point to keep the set alive. Roseville can win it here. Va back to the far pin, tipped over on the third hit, but kept alive, down for the kill. And Davion Yang just made an attempt at it to try to save the ball. But he not only saves the ball, he picks up the set-winning point. The athleticism just to get to it by Davion Yang. It results in a point and the set winner for Roseville. 25-21 Raiders in the first set, 25-23 Raiders in the second set. We go to the pivotal third set next. Here on your home for White Bear Lake Athletics, Suburban Community Channels, TV 19.
SCC TV is your home for high school sports.
And the Zephyrs find the buses to St. Paul once again.
Tune in all school year long for live broadcasts of Zephyr, Titan, and Bear sports.
Inside the park, home run.
Don't miss any of the action as we bring you football, soccer, volleyball, hockey, basketball, and much more.
Misses high, and White Bear Lake will take the lead.
Want even more of the action? You can find us on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube for all the highlights, stats, and updates you need. SCC Sports can be found on Comcast Channel 19 or 801 HD in our viewing area, and most games will be streamed on our YouTube channel as well.
Carries the puck into the zone. Road, a drive, score! Nash Road, game winner!
SCC Sports, connecting you to your community.
Ever get the feeling life is sneaking up on you and you're in over your head? Today, the world seems different, and you find yourself overwhelmed. You're facing new decisions, new expectations, new anxieties you never had to face before. What is going on here? If it feels like life is turning up the pressure, there's a resource that can help you sort things out. YourLifeYourVoice.org isn't just another app. It's a collection of ideas, interactive tools, and expert advice on how to navigate the challenges the world can throw at you. If you're feeling like you're in over your head with life, visit YourLifeYourVoice.org. It's time to come up for fresh air.
Team Sport Championship in White Bear Lake, boys lacrosse in 2015. Good things continue to happen here in White Bear Lake Area High School and in the beautiful land that is White Bear Lake, as Roseville leads 2-0 heading into the third set of play. First set was a little bit of a runaway towards the end of it for Roseville. Second set found more competitiveness and a quality nature back and forth between two teams that really went point for point. It was tied multiple times inside of the last 10 points before Roseville able to climb away with victory. And capped off in that second set by Davion Yang in a play in which he really Wasn't necessarily trying to send the ball over and down for the kill, but he was in the right spot and the right time. In the game of volleyball, as you see there, sometimes you just got to make a play. And a play works out well in your favor. It did so for the setter, the senior setter there, and gives Roseville a commanding 2-0 lead here in White Bear Lake tonight. Roseville will have to play defense to start this third set, as Eli Vang will serve to begin. White Bear Lake in a 2-0 hole. Roseville, in terms of teams coming back against them, they have dropped just 4 sets all season long. The Raiders have only lost once to a boys volleyball powerhouse, if there can be such a thing, in just the second year of sanctioned Minnesota State boys high school volleyball. But if there could be such a thing, there are schools that have emerged at that top of the table, that top of the pile, so to speak, in boys high school volleyball in the state of Minnesota. And Roseville, not a team that is easy to come back in any fashion against, as they show why right there. Caleb Towle picks up the first point. Roseville plays with a lead. One will serve 0. They dropped a set to Anoka in a Roseville tournament game. That's part of why Roseville's played more games in White Bear Lake. There was a series of 5 games on Easter Saturday, which Roseville only dropped 1 set to Anoka, but then had wins against Centennial, St. Paul, Washington, St. Paul Highland Park, and Coon Rapids, all in that tournament. And for Roseville, this is their first road contest on the year as well. Point down for White Bear Lake, picked up by Cassidy, leveling up his third set at 1-1. Last time out for Roseville, they took on Minneapolis Southside. Combination of Roosevelt South and Southwest. The Minneapolis high schools on the south side of that town. Back over, just found a seam, well killed by Henry Cuthbert. Or no, perhaps not. It did hit the pin, and it hit the pin. Cuthbert isn't quite sure on it, but it's a point for White Bear Lake. They retake the lead. 2 serving 1. Bang. Pow. Out of play. Point. On a lift for Roseville, as they'll have to go back and claw their way back from a 2-point deficit. 3 will serve 1. Cassidy to serve. Dig by Vang. Yang off the hand and the outstretched arms of Vang. Comes back here to the near side. Out of bounds. Point for the Raiders. 1-point game. But after today, they'll take on Parker Cottage Grove, and that'll be on Thursday of this week. They'll return home to Roseville on April the 21st. Take on the Eastridge Raptors. Outside of Suburban East Conference play, they will next go non-conference May the 19th at Mung Academy, and then against St. Paul Harding on May the 21st. As North St. Paul is the only team that they've dropped a match to today, 3-1. 2-point lead back in favor of White Bear Lake. Rotations will continue, and it draws substitutions on both sides. Eli Cam back to serve, 4 serving 2. 25-21 Roseville in the first set, 25-23 Roseville in the second. Service error for Cam. Draws a substitution as J.R. Lumble will return. And going back to serve, Henry Cuthbert, a 6'4 junior in this part of the rotation for Roseville. Cam across. It's dug by Cassidy. Onto the near side pin. Zhang sent it over. Dug by Cuthbert. Set by Yang at the line. The joust no good for either team. White Bear Lake able to seep it just through. But Cassidy on the hit opportunity tried to shove it over, and he just did the motion of shoving it over and was unable to do so. And wouldn't you know it, we're tied at 4. Cuthbert to serve. 4 will serve 4. Cassidy a dig right behind the official's perch. Roseville retakes the lead in this third set. It's one of the great challenges of Roseville. Depending on how the course of the game goes, the game itself can either take an hour if it's straight sets, or sometimes 2.5 to 3. Really don't know what you're getting. Across by Tao. Set up by Yang and then shoved over by Engel on the third hit. The look to set to the near pin. Block party was on, at least attempted by Engel, and goes down. A kill for Alvin Jean. Substitutions. Bring back into the lineup Don Marino and Nathan Lee. Nathan Lee will go back to serve. 5 will serve 5. In set number 3 at Galvin Corden, White Bear Lake. Engel for the dig. Set by Vang. Block party on, and point for Roseville. Well, blocked at the line by White Bear Lake, but the ball went rattling around off the top of the net and down for a Raider point. Sam Moore back into the game. He'll serve. A well-timed joust to the line. Bruce Dingemans looking for the block party, but couldn't quite get it to convert. That shot long. Found a seam? No, it didn't. Okay, one official had signaled seam, but instead it hits the pin out of bounds, and a Roseville point. They take a 2-point lead. Moore to serve. 7 serving 5. Lumbo a dig. Set by Va. Back over. Cassidy picks up the kill. Cassidy, a nice kill right in the midfield when he's finding space in the middle of that court. It would be the attacking side, the defensive side of the court. Just finds ways to find seams all over. Lanik to serve. It's dug out by Tao, tipped over at the net by Frosley. High to the air, Lumbo sets far pin, Cassidy over, and a point for White Bear Lake, and the officials call as there was a net violation, I believe. Not much of a official signal was given, but either way, point for White Bear Lake. Mlanik across, found a seam, an ace by Mlanik. He picks number 1 back on the far corner. And a 1-point lead back for the orange and black. It's 8 to serve 7. Eight serving 7, third set. Off the top of the net, and another ace picked up by Wyatt Mlanik. 2-point lead back in favor of White Bear Lake. Mlanik to serve. 9 will serve 7. And this time the service error ends a White Bear Lake rally. It's a 1-point lead. Draw substitutions on each side. Josh Vaugh back into the game for White Bear Lake. Meanwhile, Brian Yang re-enters for the Roseville Raiders. If you're not sure where Roseville High School is, just head out on Highway 36 going towards Minneapolis. And if you're driving towards the west side of the cities, well, you can't miss it. It's on their right side. Cassidy looks for the kill and picks up the kill right at the hands of Jackson Vang. And a point for White Bear Lake. Power and precision have been on display tonight. So we host Dingemans to serve. 10 will serve 8. They're going to keep a rally going for White Bear Lake. Dingemans across. Yang made the save on it. And sent over by Frosley. High into the air. Set up by Va. Sent over Marino. Vang. Far pin. Knocked down. Point for Roseville. Torin Frosley picks up the kill for the Roseville Raiders. And 9 will serve 10. Now Pala will depart. Sam Mua re-enters into the game, I believe, back to serve the libero, Jackson Vang. 9 to serve 10. Cassidy got first touch on it. Lee looks to set for Cassidy long, but we'll see if we have signal. We have a net violation by White Bear Lake that goes, or Roseville rather, that goes against Torin Frosley. 2-point lead back. Bears substitutions. Alvin Zhang is in. Eli Vang is in. And back to serve Eli Vang. 11 will serve 9. Dig by Yang. Mua sets far pin. Frosley across. And dug back by Josh Vaugh. Lumbo. Dug by Vang. At the net. Off the pin. Point Bears. Vang to continue service. 12 to serve 9. That one long. And on the third hit, it's sent over by Jackson Vang. Vada set right in the middle, sent for the kill and picked up by Eli Cam. 4-point lead for White Bear Lake. Eli Vang to serve. 13 serving 9. Long. Point Roseville. Draw substitutions. Frosley out. Huo will out. And Davion Yang back into the game. Also Owen Scheck. Service rotation pulls around. Davion Yang will try another round at service. In a 3-point lead for White Bear Lake. Third set. Roseville 2 sets to none. Cassidy on the third hit. Lumbo will shove it over. Dug by Tao. Back to the far pin. Scheck with a beauty of a kill. And not set high into the air either, but Scheck had that time beautifully and put it down for the kill. 2-point lead. Davion Yang to serve. 11 to serve, 13. Lumbo onto the far pin, sent over, blocked at the line, but down. And it's sent over on the third hit by Cuthbert. Lumbo a dig. Set back, near pin, across, and kept alive beautifully by Vang. And sent over on the third hit to keep the rally alive. Vang, far pin, Cassidy blocked at the line. Point for the Bears. As fine of a rally as we have had tonight. And it goes for White Bear Lake. Mlanik in, Va out. And back to serve Alan Cassidy. Vang a dig. Set back by Yang and over on the third. Lumbo digs. Set by Vang. Back over. Tipped down for a big kill by Alvin Jean. Four-point lead for White Bear Lake. Cassidy across, 15 serving 11. Tao the dig. Set by Yang and over, blocked at the line. Well timed by Alvin Jean. Far pin. Tao went under the net, I thought, but play continues. Cassidy will shove it over. Set up by Cuthbert. Cuthbert looking for the kill and picks it up off of J.R. Lumbo. It is so bang at the net. Where the amount of jousting that goes back and forth between teams right at that net, it can be really difficult to pick up for an official. Lumbo with the dig. Set by Vang. Far pin. Mlanik sends it over on the third. Your near side. Tipped over. Nice joust at the line. Combined between Cam and Jean. Back over. Cuthbert sends it down and a point for Roseville. Service back to the Raiders. 15 had a chance to continue their service, but instead 13 will go back to serve. Caleb Tao. Dug by Lumbo. Set Vang. Far pin. Mlanik jousted the line. Kept alive by Roseville. Cuthbert over on the third hit. Jean shoved over long, but found the seam in the back corner. A beauty. Shoved over by Eli Vang. There's a portion of talent that is involved with luck. And Vang had an eye for the seam in the back corner to pick up the point. J.R. Lumbo to serve. 16 serves 13. Look to set. Near pin. Tipped over Engel. Kept alive by Dingemans. Lumbo looking for the rush. Couldn't quite get to it to keep it alive. Point for the Raiders. Brings Kimitan Impala back into the match for Roseville. And back to serve Henry Cuthbert. 14 serving, 16 third set. Lumbo looks to set. Vang right at the middle, blocked to the line and right into the possession of the official. Hoos Dingemans picks up the block. And the resulting point for White Bear Lake, 3-point lead. Nathan Lee goes back to serve. 17 serving 14. And it picks up an ace. Caleb Tao tried to play the ball. You can see almost with the release, after how he let go of it, he didn't know where the ball went, and unfortunately for Roseville, went behind him. 4-point lead now for White Bear Lake. The rally continues. 18 serving 14. And timeout is drawn. So timeout is taken by Roseville, as they'll take it trailing by 4, 18-14 in this, the third set of play. In other games, other matches going on across the state of Minnesota. It's a final over at Tartan. St. Paul Johnson 3-1 over the Tartan Titans earlier today. They're in the fifth set, Minnetonka and Maple Grove, as that one's been a dandy up in Maple Grove. Egan over North St. Paul in straight sets, 3-0 over in North St. Paul. St. Paul Washington 2-1 over St. Paul Humboldt. That one currently live. Forest Lake leads Stillwater 2-0. New Prague over Richfield 2-1. That one is ongoing. And other Suburban East Conference games in the interim. Irondale will head to Cretin-Durham Hall. They have started at the 7 o'clock hour. Elsewhere as well, Woodbury taking on Park of Cottage Grove in a 8-3-3 duel. Nathan Lee back to serve. 18 serves 14 in this third set of play. Looks to set up, tipped over, blocked to the line and down. Point picked up by Roseville. Owen Scheck picks up the kill. It brings a power rotation back in, or at least it did for one. As Davion Yang will sub out, it brings in just Torrin Frosley. And Owen Scheck will serve for the first time tonight, it would appear, at least if memory serves. 15 serving 18. Across, and an attack error, and Scheck is frustrated by himself. Gave it a ride, gave it a ton of power, but service error is picked up. Lead back to 4. Atlantic back to serve. 19 serving 15 in this third set. Roseville 2, White Bear Lake nothing. Mua looks to set. Off speed, off the arm of Frosley. Lumbo sets over. Shoved back, and then dug by Tao. Mua looks to set. Near pin for Frosley. Lumbo is able to get the dig on it. Back to the far pin, right at the net. Tipped over. Stingemans picks up a point for White Bear Lake. A 5-point lead for the orange and black. Wyatt Mlanik back to serve. Tao, Mua, set over, beautiful shot finished off. Impala picks up the kill. A little bit of a busted play for Roseville, but they still able to find the way to make it work. Josh Vaugh back in, Mlanik out. And back to serve, Brian Yang. (16 serving 20). Cassidy Diggs, set by a player for White Bear Lake. Good athleticism by Caleb Tao. Mua set far pin for Frosley. Kept alive on the dig by Lee as they look to sit it back over. Marino. Mua right back in the middle, and beautiful block made, but just of the outstretched arms of Marino. Made a great effort to get to it. J.R. Lumbo took that and the brunt of the shot off the arm on the kill attempt. And went off of him, and Marino gave it a look but couldn't get to it. Brian Yang back to serve. 17 serving 20. Dug by Vaugh. Right over. Dingemans will have it go right in front of him. He was the third hit. And didn't get the spin on it to send it back over. 2 points is the lead now for White Bear Lake. 18 to serve 20. And Brian Yang yet to continue the rally. Lumbo Diggs looks to set it back up at the middle. Dingemans, good athleticism shown. And on the third hit, sent it over the beams and out of play. Point for White Bear Lake. Now, the amount of athleticism that has to be shown, even if the point and the result doesn't go your way, is incredible in the game of volleyball. But because sometimes, as we've seen multiple times in this game alone, just making contact with the ball is enough to affect it one way or the other. Mua back at the line. Block on the kill attempt by Kumpala. Block party was on, but out of bounds for a point for Roseville. The lead is 2. And it's late in these sets where Roseville starts to make their magic happen. Jackson Vang, libero, back to serve. 19 serving 21. And Vaugh tried to make it alive, but an ace picked up by Jackson Vang. 1-point set, 20 to serve 21. As Yang put it right between the legs, looking for Vang. Cassidy a dig. Set by Lee. Far pin, Cassidy sent it down, and the joust won by the Bears. 2-point lead back, 22-20. Alvin Zhang returns for White Bear Lake, as does Eli Vang. So the Eli Vang back to serve. .22 serving 20. Mua sets, tipped over, Cuthbert, and kept alive on the third hit into the net. An attack error. Alvin Zhang gives service back to Roseville in a 1-point contest. Rotations will bring Davion Yang and Owen Sheck back into the game. It sends Torrin Frosley and Sam Mua back to the bench. Davion Yang to serve. 21 serving 22. Lumbo a dig. Set by Vang. Joust in the net. One and down, and we're level. Sheck, with the tips of his fingers, sent it down to tie it at 22. And drawing, it would appear, the timeout by White Bear Lake. So each team has taken a timeout in this third set. And wouldn't you know it, we're tied again, 22-22. Mentioned upcoming schedule for Roseville in terms of what the Raiders have for White Bear Lake. They'll spend 2 games on the road on Thursday at Eastridge out in Woodbury. And then they'll take on the Richfield Spartans on April the 20th down in Richfield, just in the area of the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. Back at home is White Bear Lake. 1 week from tonight, they'll take on Irondale for a 7 p.m. start time. Non-conference games that they'll have the rest of the way, they'll have at St. Paul, Washington on May the 14th at Washington Tech Magnet School. Used to be the site of quite a few games that Matamidi Zephyrs played in. Now we broadcasted for quite some time. And then North St. Paul will be the other non-conference game due on the schedule for White Bear Lake in the remaining part of the 2026 regular season. Each team has taken a timeout in this third set, 22 all. And back to serve Davion Vang. Yang across, dug by Va. Back over Eli Vang on the third hit. Lumbo whistle, point for Roseville. And a double hit against J.R. Lumbo gives Roseville a 1-point lead with 2 for the win needed. Davion Yang to serve, 23 serving 22. Va with a dig, set by Vang on the near side pin. Cassidy picks up the kill. Mlanick back in. Va to the White Bear Lake bench. 23-23. Alan Cassidy back to serve for White Bear Lake. His first service is long, meaning that this is match point. 24 will serve 23. It draws substitutions. Engel back in. And Yang out. Caleb down to serve, 24 serving 23. Lumbo looks to set it. Vang, far pin. Mlanick tipped over. The official signal gives the win at first to Roseville. Now the official in the perch asks for the corner judge's decision, and we'll see if the call is the same or if it is overturned. The whistle will blow. Point for White Bear Lake. We play on. Well, Owen Sheck goes to the official in the perch immediately. I imagine the call was whether or not the ball on its way out had touched the pin or not. And now it's must win by 2. J.R. Lumbo to serve. 24-24. Big called for by Vang. Set by Yang. Sheck looks for the kill and picks it up. And match point back on the table for Roseville. Owen Sheck didn't like the service he had the last time. He'll have to watch as it's Henry Cuthbert goes back in service. Match point 2. And a teardrop. I see what Cuthbert was going with there. Going off speed, trying to have it die on the front part of the net. But it didn't make it to the net. And it levels it up 25-25. Rotation for White Bear Lake brings Don Marino and Nathan Lee back into the match. Nathan Lee to serve, the junior, 25 all. Lee to serve. Dug by Tao. Set by Vang, looking for the block at the line. Sheck picks up the dig on the opposite side. Set on the near pin, over off of Engel. And kept alive Dingemans. Back down, kill picked up by Nampala. And a third match point due for Roseville. Rotations for substitution. Frosley in, Mua in. And Mua will retreat to serve for Roseville. Match point 3. Lumbo a dig. Yang, Mlanik, back over, dug by Vang for Roseville. Tipped over, Engel, Lumbo. Looks to set Marino and then kept alive off the hands. And do they get it over on the third? They do, just barely. And high over the air it goes. Dingemans sent back over. Far corner, could have been the match there. Mua back over, down. Raiders win. Skylar Engel with a match-winning point in Roseville in straight sets. The winner tonight in White Bear Lake. A fun matchup tonight that will go into the scorebook as a straight set sweep, but not by any means was this a blowout one way or another. 4 points for Roseville in set 1, 2 in set 2, and 2 once again in set number 3. And if you were to play this match 10 times, you may see one of these teams winning it 5 times and the other winning it 5 times just the same. Really close, fun, competitive matchup between these two teams tonight in White Bear Lake. But Roseville does get the better as they win 3-0 over the Bears tonight. Now, for the second year of boys high school volleyball being recognized as a varsity sport in the Minnesota State High School League, there's one thing that's impressed me tonight, and hopefully has impressed you as well, wherever you may be watching from. The athleticism, the talent, and the technique that was shown on display by both of these teams tonight. Great power on the pins and in the middle of the net, as every player that made an impact on the court tonight did so in spades. The setting, textbook. The kills, gorgeous. And opportunities for both teams taken advantage of. Think about the game of volleyball. Athleticism is the name of the game. It's not just accuracy, it's not just power, but it's skill, it's finesse, and making sure that the systems and the routines that you have in place give yourself a chance to win. Both of these teams showed that tonight as we had some really dandy performances set up on both sides. And as volleyball continues to grow in the state of Minnesota, it's encouraging to see that already here in year number 2, the high level of talent that we have, the only way we can go is up. But for White Bear Lake, they go down tonight to the Roseville Raiders 3-0, 25-21, 25-23, and 27-25 in the decider. For David Schuyler and Joe Sigourney and our entire Suburban Community Channel's TV crew, once again, 3-0 the final here in White Bear Lake. I've been Alex Westhead. Pleased to join you here from White Bear Lake Area High School. 3-0 the final. Raiders win tonight here on your home for White Bear Lake Boys High School Athletics. Suburban Community Channel's TV 19. And hey, we'll talk again.